going to do is allocate you to groups, and there will be 3, so this requires me to count up to 3. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Anybody not in a group? Good. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, in your 3 separate groups, we'd like you all to do the same work, because it will be interesting to compare the opinions and the ideas that come forwards. And there's plenty to do. Duda's outlined to you before lunch what we'd like you to do. Think about the communication strategy draft that you've seen. We'll have a couple of copies of Duda's presentation available to you as well, which is a bit shorter than the full document, obviously, so more easy to refer to. And we'd like each breakout group, please, to come up with 5 to 10 main points addressing these questions. I don't mean 10 each, but we don't just want it's fine, yes, not a lot. We like a bit more meat on the bone than that. So think about the strategy. What does it mean in your country? What are the practical or logistical or financial or political difficulties in your country? How can we overcome them? And I use the word we. How can we, ECHO, and you together overcome them? What can ECHO do, give you, provide for you in the way of support, training, whatever it may be, to help achieve the objectives that are set out in the strategy? And for that matter, are you comfortable with those objectives? So that give it a really good kicking, basically. Really have a look at this document and think, does it work for us? Because we want it to be your strategy. It's not the ECHO strategy for EURES, it's the EURES strategy for everybody. So that's the aim. We'll give you a bit more than an hour, so plenty of time to think about it. I would suggest that in each group you appoint somebody to be chair of the group, to make sure that you get the points written up on the board, to keep an eye on the time, and also somebody who will be the rapporteur. When we all come back together in here, I'm going to invite one person from each group to come up and talk through your principal findings. So one person to be rapporteur. As I say, write them up on the board. There's a board in each room. And those of you who are going out of this room, please remember to bring with you the piece of paper or the pieces of paper with your conclusions on them. So that's the shape of it. Now, group 1, those of you who are numbers 1, you're staying in here. This room is called Vision. Group 2, those of you number 2, you're just going next door into the next door room, which is called Clarity. I promise you I'm not making this up. Group 3, you're going down to the 2nd floor, and you come out of the lifts and follow the multicolored carpet until you get to the room which is called Serenity. So I expect Vision, Clarity and Serenity by about 10 past 3 this afternoon. Any questions from anybody on the task? Good, okay, have a good discussion, and we look forward to all coming back in here later in about an hour's time. Thank you very much. team to come up and talk us through the, first of all, just talk us through the discussion you had, issues that came up, how the discussion went as a discussion between you, and then highlight the conclusions that you came to. So not just the conclusions, but if you like, a flavour of how you got there. What was the tone of the discussion? Was there a lot of consensus, or were there very different points of view from those around the table? And we'll go. I think we'll go in the order 1, 2, 3. So we'll start with the team who stayed in here. Team Clarity. Vision. Sorry, Team Vision. Team Vision. Sounds like The Apprentice, doesn't it? So, Team Vision. Who is going to present for Team Vision? Oh, so it's going to be a team effort. Are you going to do it up there or down here? Okay.
Before we find our 30 pages of presentation, we had a lot of discussion, not necessarily about the items, but the discussions were very important because we see that we have so different possibilities in our respective countries when it comes to how many we are, what we are allowed to do with social media. Some are not even allowed to use Facebook. Others can more or less do anything. And that's an obstacle to start with. And then we ended up in the discussion of ambassador. What is the role? And of course we didn't come with any complete answer, but maybe the role of an ambassador is more or less a coordinator of good things happening in the country. But if it shall have an impact on the respective organization, it must have a connection to, if you talk hierarchy, if you talk among each other, really good, have a coffee. But if it shall have an impact on the respective organization, it must be a direct connection to NCO, or it doesn't necessarily have to be someone from NCO, but it has to be someone that really can take the questions into the organization, like allow people to use Facebook or whatever. But yeah, here is the...
So we had some difficulties with the technology, which is something that happens quite often. But actually Mika said it all. Regarding the strategy, overall we think it is quite positive. We were quite positive about the strategy. We believe it is very detailed. It covers almost every aspect that we could remind ourselves about. Also including the link to the reform main guidelines, so it has a good connection to the reform. We just suggested maybe to have, it already has an executive summary, but in order to communicate about the communication strategy, maybe having either a more summarized document or maybe some good presentation with some of the schemes, the tables that you already have in there, to communicate more easily about the communication strategy. Even for the national coordinators, it might be very lengthy. Okay. One of the discussions we had was about the possibility for KPIs also to include qualitative information. The KPIs regarding the evaluation of the strategy are quite focused on quantitative indicators. They are important, of course, but you should add a qualitative dimension on it, some analysis on the numbers also. We talked about possible ways of having this information. We talked about, in some cases, focus groups. In some cases, some surveys where you could have open questions to add to quantitative information. But we don't know exactly how to implement it. Still, qualitative dimension is important. And if it's possible to add it to the KPIs somehow, it would be important. Then we had this big discussion, probably Mika already talked about it, but regarding the ambassador's role. Because for some of us, we would interpret the ambassador concept as all of the EURES advisors should be ambassadors for EURES, but this is not exactly the idea. So if this is not the idea, it might be important to understand what will be the role of these EURES ambassadors, his mandate, what he's supposed to do. So, because we really found there were some pros in having this new profile, but also some cons. It's another profile to add to all of the existing profiles already. We realize we expect that it is someone who is having maybe a PR profile, but on the other hand, it's important that it is a practitioner, that he knows what he's talking about in terms of practice. Someone who has to have a good connection to the network of EURES advisors, to have some feedback from them, to gather information. But still, it's not completely clear what will be the role and the clear added value of having an ambassador as a different profile. Even though this was, there was a room for discussion, and some people agree that there should be this role. Some others are still a bit skeptical. The importance of sharing good practices, learning communities. Also, we thought that the concept of EURES friends is a very good concept. Still, there was this question: how can we give them some reward for joining us? What's in it for them? We talked about, well, maybe a lengthier cooperation, maybe having an improved, well, I would not say an improved service, because we should provide this level of service to all of the employers, all of the job seekers, but still we have to find out what we can offer these EURES friends as differentiating somehow. I think this was the idea. Regarding
yes, absolutely. There are, and I think the friends should first of all be someone at companies that we really helped and cooperate with us for a long time. That I think it's not easy, but we could find friends there who could spread the good job that EURES do.
So then, regarding the scope of the communication strategy implementation, well, probably national coordinators will have empowerment to move on to with these different actions that are expected from us. But then we were told, yes, it's true, but national coordinators will not be enough. They need the EURES Advisors Network to be able to implement it, of course. But regarding empowerment and the profile of people who would implement the different actions, probably it will differ depending on the countries we are talking about. We had different examples in the table. There are countries where, for instance, all of the EURES advisors can speak to the media. There are countries where no one can speak to the media, not even the national coordination, without a higher authorization. There are people who have to prepare the contents and ask for prior approval of the contents before communicating to the press. So there are really very different realities depending on the countries. So regarding that, it's still a bit And then support from the ECU required regarding,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We ended up with, for example, service tools, not only to our customers, but among the network. And if you do a great survey, it's really written on black on white, the result, and you can use a lot of information from that to go further on. Media relations is always, if you have a good relation with media, then you can really go forward. So a training in that would really be great. Yeah, I don't remember the next item about funding about equipments, but of course money makes the world go round.
Regarding a checklist, so yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, well, we're having this checklist on technical requirements to use the different ERIS IT tools. We're talking about, Blackboard, NetApp Live, live stream, social media as a whole. We know there are quite different practices and levels of use in the countries, and maybe it would be useful for the countries and for the national coordinations and for the SPOCs to have a revised checklist from the Commission, from the ECO, an update of the requirements, which could be implemented at the national level, with which we could reach our IT department and ask, well, my EURES advisors need to have workstations prepared with this level of equipment and with this level of software and with this, and we need to have an improved network so that we can have access to these tools.
And here, an ambassador and ECU really could work together to see what's not working in that country and put it forward to other countries. Because of that solution, we could achieve this. We had a discussion about numbers. We are talking about numbers in placement, but we must also talk quality, and a good story used in combination with, for example, a good equipment that should give an impact on other organizations, that thanks to that we could achieve good stories or good placements.
In the last minute contribution regarding the support from ECO was regarding national communication strategy and plans consultancy or revision. This is something we had from the previous provider, and I believe maybe Typic or I don't know, Mark, regarding the revision of communication strategies might play a role on it. We don't know. We just would like to be sure whether this will still be available for the future or not.
Don't worry, we're not going to abandon.
Okay, so that is it. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Hang on there, guys. Yeah, don't worry, we're not going to abandon you as far as advice on strategy development and so on is concerned. Let me ask you a question. One of the things we asked you to consider was what difficulties or problems, what practical difficulties might get in the way of achieving the objectives outlined in the strategy. And it's really nice to see very positive feedback from the group. But let's just look at the other side of the coin. What were the problems that came up as you were discussing things, and did any of the problems seem insuperable, or did the problems seem manageable?
Well, most of the discussions were all the problems, so we ended up in some positive items here. But there are differences between the countries, nearly sometimes impossible to overcome. When it comes to, in UK, you said you had 3 computers that you all can use to go outside your own system, for example. And I know there's a lot of countries that can't even use social media. And of course, an ambition, Vision Euros Advisor open their own account, which also happens. So there are so different level on what you're allowed nationally to achieve what jurists need. But on the other hand, there are good things done without all this, and maybe an ambassadorship could tell we did this in spite of all this technical equipment, because most people in this room like to do a good work, not wait for a tool that doesn't exist.
Okay. All right, thank you very much indeed. Give them a round of applause. At this stage, what we want to do, obviously, is get your feedback. What we'll then do is we'll have a coffee break, just to give everybody a chance to think about something else for 15 minutes. And then we'll come back to these issues. We'll group the various issues that are arising from each of your discussions, and respond to you and get into a bit of detail. I mean, I think clearly it will be useful for you if we explain a bit more about our thinking on what the whole staff as ambassadors concept means. I don't want to take these one at a time as we go through now. I want to hear from you guys first, then we'll have a break, then we'll respond on these various issues. So please don't think the fact that you're not getting responses from us on a point-by-point basis means we're not going to do it. We're just going to do it after the break. Okay, so again, thank you very much, Team 1. So clarity was definitely Team 2. Did you achieve clarity? And if so, who's going to explain it to us?
At least that is what I'm asked to. Well, first, the group where I was in was a diverse group, a lot of different starting points. Also, you can hear actually that everybody is in another situation, another organization. Some of the purposes are the same, but everybody has another environment, and that makes talking to each other even already difficult to see what someone is starting from. Well, we didn't fight, and we all came back to the room, so I guess we did all right. I start with the first question, and there was feedback on messages in the strategy. As soon as we start, there was already a lot of discussion about the ambassador. Didn't took long before the ambassador appeared, and there were a lot of questions, and there were some people that had an idea of what this ambassador should do, but it was not quite clear in the group. So there were a lot of questions about role, purpose, mandate. Is it a term only used internally, or is it also outside of Eurus? Who nominates? And also, why do we not stick to Eurus advisor? Another thing what came up was it was a detailed thing, but also an important thing about the message that we have high quality vacancies. And the thing is that why shouldn't we aim much more for a high, not for the amount of vacancies, but more for the high quality? Because there are 2 million vacancies on the Eurus portal, but no one believes there are 2 million high quality vacancies on the Eurus portal. And so there is a difference. You can say, you can communicate that there are, but that is in doubt. So maybe we should look at that that sentence again. Another thing is in the whole communication strategy, it is highly depending on the digital services, the e-services, but there are also still problems that may not be forgotten, especially when an example came from the NetOp, when you have the European Online Job Days and you have all the employers finally prepared to go to come along and to join the meeting. And at that time NetOp is dysfunctioning, then you you destroy a lot of good things. So we should be very carefully in this perspective. Another thing what came up was that there was a sense of, well, if we must do all what was coming into this plan, that is a lot, and we can't accept it as a mandatory plan, but as guidelines. But in the other way, what we also see and what came up in with some people is that there is a lot of good content in it. And when you look at it very detailed, there is not much that is conflicting with our own organization. So this is also a thing that that we like about the plan. Go to the next. Are you empowered to implement it? Well, in more countries, like Bulgaria, but also other countries, EURES has only one paragraph in the National Communication Plan. In our country, it's also the case. What we do is we see the communication plan from Brussels. We have our national communication plan, and we write a plan in between that connects both plans. So everything is explained and is connected to each other. If we can deal with it in every way, I don't know. I can't say, but it's, as I say, it looks like a good plan, and in the end, PES is in the lead. So what is coming into this EURES plan is also depending on what we can write. There was also a situation that somebody said, "Yeah, we have a new government. I can't say what we can do. New government, new view." There was a country, or more countries, that say that the use of social media was blocked, and there was also a policy to ignore the social media. What else do you need? Well, one of the things that came up was, and that was enthusiasm for something that happened last year, was that there was in an action banners, etc., from UNESCO at that time appeared and were delivered, and a lot of colleagues have found that a very good idea and gladly make use of this. Other thing is also mentioned in the previous group is that on the level of how you can say it, results, we also like to be more focused on the quality of services. And example was, for instance, like we have all these countries and all are doing things in the line of yours, but different, and that makes sometimes that it is also confusing. I received a complaint last week about from a job seeker who didn't get the services in our country. He was expected, as he always get in his own country, and there it was normal to deliver. In our country we don't do that anymore, because only on special request, but not the standard procedure, and it may also be a point of attention in the communication. Oh.
Okay, again, thanks very much. Let me just, if I may, drill down a little bit on this,
yes.
this social media question.
Yes.
Because I think when we come to the broader discussion later on this afternoon, excuse me, I'll draw in some of our social media experts here to comment. But can I just hear from those in this group who said that they couldn't use, or they're not allowed to use social media? Why? I mean, because the hierarchy says so. I understand that. Yes, but what's the fear or what's the rationale amongst those who are blocked from using social media? Just so that we on this side have got a clearer idea of exactly where the problem lies. Have you got a microphone over on that table?
We are not allowed formally to work with social media. This is the policy of our employment agency, and technically we don't have access. When we are at work, there is no access to social media, at least in Sofia, where the headquarters are. And we have colleagues who are doing something. We have a Facebook Bulgarian page, but they are doing this at home, from home, during the weekend. But this is a contradiction because it is not formally allowed, actually. And the executive director said, "Why should you? We are not a private. You are not a private company. Why should you do something which is different from the general policy?" That is the general policy. Maybe sooner or later we'll start working with social media, but it's not only our country. There are some other countries as well. It depends on the policy. Sometimes we don't have time, we don't have enough staff, maybe. Sometimes the managers are afraid of negative reactions, so the reasons might be different.
Okay, thank you. So it might simply be it doesn't, the facility isn't there or the technology isn't there. It might be a fear of negative comment. It might be. It might be a tech. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to comment on that? Yeah.
I really have a question for you because I'm looking at yours Bulgaria Facebook page now. You said that this is something that person who is handling it is handling in its private time, but this person is representing as yours Bulgaria. So if there will be complaints to yours Bulgaria, they will be here. No one says here that this is it says governmental organization. How do you handle this?
That is, it is not formal. A colleague of mine is doing this, but it was not launched formally. He decided to do this, and he's doing this.
How can a private person represent something that formally exists?
That is the question. He is an expert in our organization, and but he is not authorized to do this.
It's always scary when the IT guys start doing things off their own.
But actually, the page is very good. The content is very regular and very good.
Well, let's hope that he survives until the weekend. Anybody else? Who else is facing similar constraints? Could we just say, Germany?
Germany, yes.
Intuitively, I'd have thought you guys would be, right up at the front.
Well, in our country, it's mainly because of security reasons. We have the technology, but we are not allowed to use it. There's a firewall system. Even if we just, insert Facebook, we cannot have access to it. Our management is thinking about allowing other kind of social media, like Xing or LinkedIn, but Facebook definitely not.
Okay, thank you. As I say, I'll bring in our social media people after the break, and we'll hear their comments on that. Okay, Group 3, Serenity, who went outside into the sunshine. Who's reporting from Group 3? Old technology.
We haven't the funding yet.
Mind you, it was a very nice video that you guys did earlier, so you're allowed to use a bit of old technology now.
Well, we had to start with a discussion which wasn't linked straight on to the 3 questions.
I'll tell you what, sorry, can I ask you just to push it back a bit, because poor Duda is at the moment behind the screen. And I think it's a bit unfair that the boss can't actually see the results of your deliberations.
2-4 for the other ones now.
There we are. Compromise. Halfway.
Voila.
Perfect.
If the mouse isn't coming to the mountain is coming to the mouse. Voila. So we come a bit closer then. We had some discussions as well as all the other groups on general subjects as well, linked to the 3 questions. We had as well different, let's say, opinions on what could be done, which budget, which goals to obtain as well. And at a certain point, we were asked to come back to the 3 main questions and to put something on paper. The first question is, I'll put me on the other side because, oops, I'm going to put it. The feedback, key messages. When we are spreading news, when we are trying to give a message, we had the difference between what, let's say, your local national issue and EURES message. We called it the compatibility issues. Some PES, some local strategies could be different from the ones given by EURES. Then we had as well the resources and funding. It's nice to implement, to have a strategy, to have directions given, but we thought we need tools. We made a separation as well on the financial resources, and I heard it before as well. It's nice to do, but who's going to pay for it? And as well logistics, and by that, for instance, we mean as well distances to be covered. I'm doing my job in Brussels. Well, going from one point to another is no problem. But I can think in some countries, if you're going from the north to the south, for instance, you could be traveling 1,500 kilometers. How is the message going to be spread 1,500 meters? How is your employer, how is your job seeker going to travel? So issues and refunding strategies. We had a problem as well. Let's say we didn't have the problem ourselves, but we thought that in some countries and at some points we need to strengthen the knowledge, the knowledge on EURES. We had an example given that in a country they didn't even know at the top what EURES was, what it could do as well. So there's still work to do, I think, on top level. In that kind of discussion we had, we even said it would be necessary to go to the highest level, even on a European scale, so that from still European parliamentarians could go on to your national mandatories and regional mandatories to re-spread the message that there is such thing as EURES, as mobility. Then we think that what should be done is the toolkits and everything which is organized around it, information that should be nice and well structured, giving out to ours as well. At this moment, we read in the new structure there will be new toolkits, but there are still toolkits existing. Could we have maybe a list of them again, a refresh of these toolkits? Maybe these toolkits are still usable or should be revised, boost them up. And then of course what we had before, the word the ambassador or the ambassadors, which is I think a tricky definition to give it to. Who should the person be? Where do we find the right person? We think of course that the word to be spread on EURES has to be done on each level. We're all EURES advisors, we're all ambassadors as well for the product. So do we need a person, do we have to create a new function, or should it be one inside, and can he do it with his other job as well? Some said, well, your best manager, the highest on the level, should be the ambassador as well. So that has to be discussed.
And the skills for these persons should be defined also, because they must be very skilled persons to do this job. It's not like we nominate an ambassador and it's okay. He has to know some things, he has to be qualified in a certain way.
Oops, voila. It's all nice to speak about the items given and what we brought on, but how are we going to do it? Which is the backup we need? And I think, well, the people in our group mostly had the same problem, which is clarifying the fundings. Sweden said it's the money that makes the world go round, and I think it's in general for every country the same message at this moment regarding budget. So the funding process has to be regarded in, and as well then the budget which will be dedicated to the EURES communication, and that's, I think, as well a national issue. Some people do have fundings, others don't have fundings. There is, well, a new government means as well maybe new policies, etc., etc. What we did as well is, if we have no budgets, could we share knowledge by one way or another? Share the best practices on cheap funding, which means that it doesn't have to cost always a lot of money to get things done. Why not share our experiences on that way? Yeah. We spoke just before on the toolkits. Having a list of toolkits, revive the toolkits, and as well maybe you should with these toolkits see of the manuals. Is there a manual? And then as well train people to use the tools. It's good to have a toolkit, but you should use it, and of course then if you don't have the training to use it correctly, then as well support the hopes to implement the communication strategy. We at our level, we can knock on the door, spring on the table, dance, shout as well, but it's the top who has to agree with the implementation. So some support. There will be conferences where the directors of PES will be gathering. Maybe it's a good idea if someone from EURES would be present and maybe give a small presentation over there to get their attention if we start knocking on their doors. What we think is still useful are the successful stories for internal use again. Doesn't cost much, success stories, and I think everyone in every country should at least have one success story to tell. Bring the positive news out. And then reinvent mobility motion. I think by the years, or the message in general for Europe, general message is mobility of people. Start or keep knocking on the same issue. And then of course we had, and I read it as well before, bringing positive news, giving a press conferences, etc., etc. But when you have one journalist present who's starting a nasty question, how do we deal with it? What do we do with it? Because once a bad item is coming up, all the other ones will pick on it and spread that news, and your message, your positive image is gone. So maybe how do we deal with it? A training could as well be useful for everyone. And the last one is the blank page. I give the word now to my colleague.
Well, one thing about the about the mobility notion, it's something that we have to address once more, I think, because there are many member states many pests, not member states, but many pests that they have not as a priority this objective, this target. So we have to address it once more, and this is a key issue for our work also. And one more, this is more like a technical issue. Maybe we should build a step-by-step methodology for customer approach, that we could endorse it to our PES's approach for customers. I don't know how this could be done in an easy way, but we have to think it over again and again and build it. This will help our jobs, our work. That's it. So, this was it. Thank you.
And
Okay, thank you very much
We
indeed.
excuse ourselves if we misused the terrace outside, but the temptation was there.
No, I think sitting on the terrace and enjoying the sunshine doesn't sound like misuse to me. It sounds like exactly what terraces are supposed to be there for. So well done. Just very quickly, you mentioned training. We're going to have a session tomorrow morning looking very specifically at training requirements. So that may come up in the conversation we have later this afternoon, but there's a dedicated session tomorrow morning on training requirements. A lot of food for thought in there. Thank you very much indeed. Revisiting the concept of mobility. Restating the concept of mobility, getting buy-in for that at the top. Is this whole thing mandatory, or are they just guidelines? What exactly is an ambassador anyway? The toolkits. What are we going to do about the toolkits? Update them, revise them, replace them. Social media. Very useful, but a problem in some countries. And where's all the money coming from anyway? Those are just some of the themes that I picked up on. We are going to get together, put our heads together, and look for more themes while you guys are enjoying a cup of coffee. And then we'll come back and revisit those and come with some ideas and some responses to the very good feedback that you've given us. So thank you very much indeed. It's just after 4 o'clock. I make it 2 minutes past 4. So 15 minutes coffee break. You know where it all is. It's all next door. See you in a quarter of an hour's time. Thank you very much.